Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project in conjunction with Torah Anytime. Today I am privileged to be joined by Rav Tzvi Ortner, Rav of Linas HaTzedek in Brooklyn and Director of the Technology Department at the OU. Thank you, Rabbi Ortner, for being here.
My pleasure.
Now, last week we spoke about refrigerators. This week we're going to be speaking about ovens. What are the typical concerns and what are your solutions?
Good. So the bases are basically the same, right? The only thing is that what we're saying about defrost when we talk about,
Right.
in the refrigerators, here we talk about fire all the time. And again, fire you talk about when you talk about gas or you talk about electricity. It's like a shailos matras. According to most of the poskim, it's considered the same kind of fire. So there's no difference between a gas oven or electric oven.
Mm-hmm.
You all consider logically the same, which you're actually dealing with fire, like they say.
So it's eish d'oraisa.
So that makes all the conversation already much of a higher level,
Mm-hmm.
from a logic perspective. On a customer level, a refrigerator is something you have to use. An oven,
You could maybe get around it.
But people like it. It's very popular in America to use the ovens. So we have basically the same thing. The old oven that the poskim were talking about many years ago talks about again a mechanical thermostat that turns on the fire, which you're not sure, opening, closing, whatever the case is. You can get into self-explication, v'chule. I can tell you that the psak was the cooler, and I think it was much more lechumer than the refrigerators, but there was some mekilim here and there.
And people would only open up the oven if the fire was on?
So that gets a bit more complicated because you can't really know. There used to be, and there is still some models out there that the indicator light is actually telling you when the element is on.
Mm-hmm.
Or in some gas ovens you can actually look
in, right?
Right. But an electric oven you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see anything. So on some of them you can still do like kind of the old custom, and you can try to figure out when the fire is on to open it up. But on the other hand, what we got is besides...
I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
We're assuming that there's no light that's turning on, right?
So I was about to say that there is light,
okay.
number one. More than the light, there is sensors, obviously. And then we also have something that became very popular recently is for some safety or efficiency or you name it, they have a rule that whenever you open the door, even if the element is on, it's going to turn off the fire immediately.
For the security reasons,
For
whatever it is,
reasons,
whatever
right.
the reason is.
Which become very popular, which means even if you can open the door when the
Fire is on,
you're
going to turn it.
Exactly.
So it's machaba.
And when you close the door, you're actually going to turn it on.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, you can walk maybe, you can find this switch and you can put a little cover on it. You can deal with it maybe. So again, like I said before, all you have to know is what the problem are and see what kind of solution you wanna accept. What we did in our solution over here when it comes to ovens, gas ovens like it is over here, and recently we were able to accomplish with the wall ovens the same, is we again taking care of 100% and we actually automating the entire AISH heat element system to be automated. We cut off so there's no this feature that turns off the fire when you open and close the door is deactivated. It's not happening, which was a big deal.
But that's interesting. So that means with your system, the oven is not working on the thermostat at all? It's just going on and off automatically?
Kind of. It's pre-programmed. There's like 3 settings that we pre-programmed and we decided before Shabbos what program to run. That's basically what it is.
I'm curious on a technical level, how does the oven maintain the proper temperature if it's not working off of a thermostat?
Right, so that's where field tests and many tests are being involved. And I can tell you that in the beginning it was not too hot. Then we came already out to the market and we increased for the next generation. And we increased for the 3rd time. And now with the recent wall oven, which is actually big news to the customer, we have actually 2 options. Because it's not so much thermostat based, it could be, believe it or not, that the electric flow to your house will affect the level of the fire.
Oh, really?
So you're not going to get cooler or hotter. So we created 2 levels. So if a person sees for the first few weeks that it's too cold for him, we can use this different setting.
Interesting.
Which is, on Shabbos it's actually not thermostat based.
Right.
We have some kind of a thermostat here and there just for safety purposes if it's getting too hot, for kind of skona.
Right.
But the actual operation is definitely closed loop, as they call it. There's no thermostat involved whatsoever. And the same goes a full deactivation to the buttons, full deactivation to the sensors, full deactivation to the feature that closing and opening the fire, which gives you a full 100% solution for Shabbos.
And again, like I asked with regard to refrigerators, with these ovens, the Shabbos keeper could be applied even after you have an oven installed in your house? Must you buy it with that in place? What's
Correct.
that like?
So you can do the same. You can buy it as a plug and play, the same concept. I
By the
will
way,
say,
are these Shabbos keepers installable by yourself, or do you have to have a professional come and do
no,
it?
it's simple. It's a plug and play. You have a little wire over here.
Let's just show people what it looks like.
Right, it's a little wire over here.
So this looks like an Ethernet cord?
Kind of,
right?
yeah. It's like
Kind
an
of?
RJ45 cable that gets into a port in the back of your oven. You can see the pictures over here.
Okay.
Right to the back of your oven over here. Pretty simple installation. Good instructions over here. Takes you 5-6 minutes. It should be set up.
That's the whole thing.
The whole
And
thing.
you leave
I will
that in.
say
Yeah.
that on the wall ovens, because it's kind of built in, and the port is actually located in the back of the oven, you might expect a little bit hard time. So if you're doing
Because you won't be able to get to it.
right, so if you just bought it and you're installing it now, it's not a problem whatsoever. It might be a bit more complicated if you have already a wall oven, but it's workable. It's doable.
Now, is that something that once you plug it in, you leave it in the whole week, or do you
Yes.
deactivate it for during the week?
No, so that's the beauty part of the automation that we have here. We have a built-in Jewish calendar for the next 30 years.
So it knows to only kick in for Shabbos and Yom
Yom
Tov.
Tov.
How many years is the calendar?
30 years.
30 years?
Yes, I can promise you
so
the appliance will
We
survive
have to have
that
you
long.
come back here in 30 years and we'll...
So I can tell you the appliance will survive that long, but the calendar is over here. I wouldn't say there's a little difference between the refrigerators and the ovens. The refrigerator is actually kicking in automatically every Shabbos, actually 90 minutes before Shkia for early Shabbos and stuff like
really?
that. And then goes all the way to 90 minutes after Shkia to cover all the shittas when it comes to it. And ovens, because of the safety issue of just turning on a fire with no supervision, let's say you go on vacation, so you have to accept. So before Shabbos, it's going to give you like a little prompt, and you're going to have to accept. It should go into Shabbos more than actually work on Shabbos, because they don't want you to...
You mean if you're away, they don't want your oven to be going off for no reason?
Right.
Is that it?
Yes.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's another really fascinating details. We did refrigerators, we did ovens. What else should we know about?
So I will elaborate a little bit more on ovens, that when it comes to Yom Tov, we did implement it over here, different scheduling for cooking. So on Shabbos, it's simple, just keep warm.
Right.
On Yom Tov, some people want to cook.
Want to cook, actually.
So what we have over here is actually different cooking windows, which means around the mealtime, it's just going to go by itself up to 350. So you can actually cook in the oven.
I'm just curious, how do you know when people are eating their sudas?
So
or is it just the
No, it's a
estimate?
challenge. It's a very good question, and I can tell you it's one of the things that we need to fix. Because we had some assumptions that might not going to fit for everybody, not for every Yom
Some people
Tov.
eat early, some people eat late.
Exactly. So we had a certain schedule that we thought it's going to fit a lot of people. And it could be Riz, but there's definitely some people that are not so happy about it. And there is ways.
Do you have plans to actually sell different models with different time frames?
So we actually, what we want to work is and be able to be flexible and set your own time schedule.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Almost like a Shabbos clock, like
Kind
you said
of.
it.
Right. So that's something that
That
the
you're
work,
working on.
Yes, and just
Very
for
interesting.
that's one part that actually not so much about Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Right.
It's about delivering a solution that not only 100% halachically correct, but also comfortable and convenient for the people. At the same time, we'll go back to the refrigerator and say that another chiddush that we have over here, on a regular Shabbos mode, your light is off.
Right.
Here, the light is on the entire Shabbos.
Oh, wow.
Just on a low capacity, so it doesn't affect the electric, efficiency and stuff like that.
But that's interesting. The light could be on because it's all automated, so you're not triggering it, basically.
Which also shows a difference. When you deal with engineers and you deal with a goy and you try to explain what Shabbos is all about, we had to flip their mindset, because their mindset says, whatever I see is a problem. So I gotta have the screenshot, the light
has to be off.
Exactly.
And you have to explain to them that, no, there's no problem if the light is on, as long as you weren't the one
doing anything.
who turned it on.
On the other hand, they felt anything behind the scenes, what do you care about? You know what I mean? So we had to flip and say, let's just make sure we're not affecting anything internally, and then whatever displays, no problem. You can display the screen technically, you can display the light as long as you're not affecting it.
I find that insight fascinating, because even the layman who's not sitting and learning halacha, this is aleph based to him. He knows that there's halacha, and it's not what you see, it's what you're doing that matters. And this is something that even a cheder child would know, because we raise them that way. And yet someone who's not familiar with that to them it will be a chiddush, which is just really so enlightening. What else do you have to share with us on appliances, small appliances, big appliances?
So going forward, the same conversation can go on if we talk about small appliances, on Yom Tov, for example, adding water to the hot water urn.
Okay.
which used to be in the old time not an issue. The same like the old time hot water heater wasn't an issue because there was a pilot, there was an existing fire, you just whether increasing it or causing it to work longer or stuff like that, which all of that is changed today. Everything goes by thermostat, the fire is actually off.
And sometimes you have digital screens, right?
Digital screens, all of that stuff. So we do some work on that also. We try to automate the most we can and still get the water to the temperature we want, but without affecting anything on it. Which is a bit easier on Yom Tov because the issue is not so much causing fire, it's just causing a new fire. So we try to regulate and automate is actually the fire should never turn on based on our action. And the different details we can work out differently. So this is one example of something that people should think about it.
Right.
You're adding water on Yom Tov, whether there's anything you have to be concerned about the thermostat, about the light, about the screens and different sensors that you have today. For example, you can empty your water urn on Yom Tov, and you're not realizing that technically there's a level sensor over there that's going to shut off the machine. So there's different things that people just have to think about, and they make their own decision, whatever they want to do, and how to deal with that. But which was very important, and actually something that this is basically your project all about, is educate the people to have the knowledge. So we're not telling them what a decision to do. The decision should be based on knowledge, not based on assumptions.
Informing people.
Exactly.
Now, with these urns, I'm just curious, does someone need to purchase a special Zman-designed urn, or is there also a plug-and-play type of system that you have like you do for refrigerators and ovens?
Right, so this is it's not a GE product, it's not a Zman project, there's different companies out there.
Shabbos mode urns?
Shabbos mode urn, and again, it's going to be different levels. There's levels that just going to deactivate some buttons, there's level that's going to automate everything, there's level that's going to do different things. So whenever you buy and you see something, again, like the same like we said before, it's not just because somebody said so or somebody is writing something. It's just about the consumer to actually make their work and homework, I would say, and then see what are they getting and how it works. And again, you can always reach out. And what we do here in the OU, we try to help.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to backpedal to something related to fridge and freezers that I neglected to ask, and that is ice makers. What information could you provide on that with regard to your product, or is it unrelated to using that on Shabbos?
Right, so it's a very good question. Yes, we should elaborate about. So there's 3 types of ice makers available today. There's kind of very mechanical ice makers that there's no major concerns. In other words, there's like a little metal over there that
a little metal bar that comes down,
which is basically very mechanical and very simple, and that should not have any issue on Shabbos.
Even though when you take ice out, you're technically causing the level to go down.
Okay,
and you're being goyim.
So you're making ice of Shabbos, which is another question whether ice is being made by itself on Shabbos, whether it's a shalof noiled, there's a whole different conversation that, I think the acceptable psak is which is okay, but again, it's a question, ask you of whether you're allowed to use ice that's being done by itself on Shabbos, whether it's noiled or not. But in terms of the mechanism, you're not doing anything actually. Then we have the general digital ice maker, which involve the same component as everything that we talk about in refrigeration. In other words, there's sensors. There's a sensor for the level. There's a sensor for the amount. There's a sensor that makes the ice, which means every time you take out the ice,
you're triggering the sensor.
You're triggering the sensor to fill up again, or to at least give the information what the level is and what we need to do and such. The same like everything else, which is much of a bigger problem. Again, something that you have to discuss because it could be a gomma, it could be something that's not happening too often, but it's definitely sensors and then some electricity being involved based on your usage, taking out the ice. And I'm talking about taking out the ice just not even if you're taking it from the regular dispenser, which definitely digital in those models. Even if you want to reach around from the door and take out some ice, this definitely could be the same issue because you're affecting the level of the ice and then again the entire system. Now there's another type of ice making which is a bigger problem is in the most more fancy refrigerators you're gonna have this bucket of ice sitting in your fridge. Now usually, I hope people understand what I'm trying to explain, but usually you have the fridge and the entire ice maker is built into the door. Now my question is if I'm taking some ice from inside. Now, in the fancy refrigerators, the bucket of ice is actually placed on the shelf. So you can just easily take out the ice whatever which way you want. When the door is being closed, now the system is actually dispensing water, making ice, or whatever the case is. So the system is actually sitting on top of this bucket inside, which means even if you're not taking ice, every time you're opening and closing the door,
you're going to trigger it?
Trigger, which basically you're closing the door, so it's going to check the level. Do I need to dispense more water or not, or whatever, right?
And even if the ice is full, it's taking information.
Right. So what's the solution? So in most of our models, we were able to deactivate entirely the
ice maker altogether.
In some of them, we cannot, because it was kind of hardwired in a different way. So on a software level, we weren't able to
bypass it.
Exactly. So what we're saying is we're advising for people to manually deactivate it. But there's a difference between these two kinds of them, because on some of them we can just say don't take out ice, and as long as you open and close the door, you're all good.
You're fine. Okay.
Exactly. And the other models is not just enough that you're not taking ice, but every time you open and close the door, so you have to actually manually deactivate before Shabbos every time when you open and close.
How do you do that on a practical level?
It could be just a button.
Just a button?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them could just a button. Very simple.
Very interesting.
So that's a very important piece of information. I'm glad you touched it up.
Yeah.
And it's a different, based on models and companies and such.
I'd like to thank you again for our 2 previous conversations and for this one as well. Any final thoughts on this topic for our viewers?
I think what I will wrap up is basically saying that even though that maybe we left some details out, I think the goal in that conversation was just to open up the mind of people that, when you're walking into an appliance store, you're making a decision for Pesach or whatever time is to buy an appliance, think about it as like a piece of food. Think about it like a piece of bread. Know what you want, look for certification, and again, ask a shailos. And on a personal level, if you want to reach out to me with any questions and advice, I'm always available.
Tisco mitzvahs, really. Thank you so much for this conversation, but really also for what you're doing for the Klal. You're helping inform, you're helping Yidden stay up to date with the advancements in the world of technology, and so we appreciate your expertise, and thank you again for taking the time to join us.
My pleasure again. Thank you so much, and looking forward to continue working together on this.